Okay, so what we need to do here, now that we have our length cut, we need to be able to find the centre for the spur centre on our lathe. And to do that, what we're going to do is just mark a line, a diagonal line from corner to corner on both sides. So we'll do that. And repeat the process on the opposite side. Now what we need to do is we're going to cut just a really short groove, small groove along those lines. That helps our spur centre sit in the right position there. Okay, so when we're using the tenon saw, obviously we're cutting into end grain, so you just need to be a little bit more careful. I like to drag the blade backwards to start off with to get that groove. So I'll go through nice and easy, get that groove happening before we start to push and cut in the forward direction. And we'll turn around and we'll do this side as well. Okay, now that we have a nice pronounced groove in there, what we're going to do, using our spur centre, we're going to just press that in to locate what we need. So get a hammer, line it up, line the spurs with that groove, the centre in the centre, and just gently tap that into place. Okay, should look like that there. Okay. Once we've got our centres marked and the spur centres are all indented on the ends, what we actually have to do is we have to take off these sharp corners. Because we're going to be putting this in a lathe, it's going to be spinning really, really fast. We don't want to have to hit those corners so hard. So we're going to plane some of them off before we do put it in a lathe. Before we do that, we're going to mark it out. So to mark it out, we'll pop the vise and set our marking gauge to 15 mil. Okay, then with our marking gauge, we're just going to drag the stock of our marking gauge along the edge, creating that nice parallel line along the edge there. Okay, so we're going to repeat the process for all of our edges. And once I've done that, I'm just going to pencil these in so I can see them a lot easier. Okay, and then we're going to plane. Next step here is what we're going to do is we're going to plane off our sharp edges here using the plane. There are a couple of different planes you can use. I'm just using a smoothing plane here. You can make this job a lot easier for yourself, and that's simply by setting up the plane correctly. Okay, now one thing you want to just make sure is obviously we have the blade sticking out the bottom of the plane. Okay, if you have the blades protruding too far out, it's going to jam up into your timber and you're not going to get anything off. You're just going to make things difficult. And if you obviously don't have enough blade sticking out the bottom of that plane, it's not going to take off the material that you want. So it's all about setting the plane up correctly. We're going to put this in the vise, so I'm just going to put it in, corner on corner and firmly tighten that up. Okay, the way that you stand is really important, and the angle that we lead into our plane. Okay, so I'm a right-hander, so I hold the handle with my right hand, and my left hand is guiding up the top there on this handle here. Okay, the lead-in angle, so I'm leading in on that material on about a 30 to 45 degree angle as I go. So we're not approaching it straight on. Okay, so we lead into our plane. So just planing. Now, if you find that this is planing quite nicely, but if you find that it's tearing into the timber, you might actually be planing into grain. You might just have to swap the direction, so go the opposite direction, which you can see it's starting to tear up in here. Okay, so if it's doing that, swap sides and come this way, and then you'll more likely be planing with the grain. Okay, so we're going to keep planing until we meet both of those lines that I've marked out with the marking gauge. So keep it consistent. So once you've finished planing, you should have a shape that looks like that. So we no longer have those sharp edges on there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to cut some metal tubing for the external ferrule for the top of our shovel handle. So we've just marked out at 60mm length some 34mm outside diameter steel tubing, and we're going to cut this on the cold saw. Make sure that a couple of things with the cold saw, you set it all up. We're cutting a 90 degrees, so it's got to be a nice square cut. Okay, we need to make sure we have fluid running through that as well as we're cutting. Okay, so line it up firstly with the length, clamp it all up into place. Okay, your foot needs to go on the pedal. Turn the machine on. We're starting on the setting 1, the higher setting. Go over to 2. When you can see that there is water coming through the pump, turn it back over to number 1, and we can start to cut. Cut your external ferrule, that tubing, you might find you'll have some burrs on the outside or the inside. We can just run the file over just to tidy them up for the external burrs. So I'm just going to grab a second cut file and just get any sharp edge off so that you're not going to cut yourself. Okay, and then the deburring tool is for any internal burrs, so just run that around the inside and you should get any burrs off. Okay, do the same for both sides.